How do railroads deal with derailments in remote locations? We'll have the answer for you in just a second. David writes in, when a derailment occurs in an isolated area where there are no roads or other ways of access, how does the railroad get the equipment in to make repairs, remove damaged cars, etc.? David, what the railroad does in this situation is it puts all the equipment it's going to need onto flat cars and then hauls it by rail as close as it can to the site. And from there, it unloads the equipment. So here's an example of a train that's loaded with maintenance away equipment. Now there are a couple different styles of ramps that they can use to unload these cars. An older style of ramp here is this kind of fixed ramp, and then as you can see it goes from the rail height all the way up to the car height. Now I was nosing around on YouTube and came across this here. It's called a scorpion ramp by some manufacturers, and it's kind of an interesting device, and I'll play a little bit of this video here. So you can see here the equipment going up the ramp onto the flat car. And then when the cars are all loaded up, this ramp will start folding up, and it kind of looks like a scorpion tail, hence the name, as the ramp starts to close up and stow into position for transport when the train's ready to leave the area. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to scrub through here, and you can start to see the ramp closing up here. It's actually quite an interesting process to watch, much simpler than the old fixed style ramps here. And they've obviously sped up the video a bit here, but you can see how once it's all done, he's got one more rotation to go here. You can see the piece of track equipment already on the flat car here. And then the ramp just stows down nicely, and it's right on the car. And then here you can see the process of the ramp unfolding when the equipment's ready to be unloaded. And this video here is from Knox Kershaw Incorporated, and this is its product KRC70 ramp car. And one more step, and that ramp is going to be down at rail height. One thing you can notice is this ramp serves two purposes. First, the equipment can ride on the gauge here, so it can just go right onto the rails. It also has ramps here for larger equipment, such as those with tires or with tracks like you would find on an excavator, things like that. So both rail and non-rail equipment can be unloaded using this ramp, and that makes it much easier, like you said, to get to remote locations. Now, one other thing I should point out is that once this equipment is unloaded, they obviously need other materials like ballast, riprap potentially, ties, rail, maybe even switches depending on the track arrangement at the location. And there are different types of cars that you'll see brought in for that. The first is a ballast car here. This is an example of a Burlington Northern car that was built from an older covered hopper car here. And you can see that it's got the ballast discharge gates right here, so they can flow the ballast either onto the field side of the rail or into the gauge. Like I noted earlier, riprap may also be needed, especially if there's areas around like a waterway or something where there's a lot of erosion possibilities. And this side dump car here is used for that. So these heavy rocks can be put in, and then the car can dump either to the left or to the right, and the load can be dumped out that way. Railroads also are going to need ties and rail at derailment sites. Here's a flat car, special duty flat cars designed strictly for transporting ties. Ties may also be transported in gondolas too. There are special backhoes and things like that that can ride on gondolas, and they can lift the ties out and put them off to the side, pedal them out for the crews to use as they repair the track. In some derailment situations too, you might see panel track used or panel turnouts, and these are prefabricated track pieces. Here's some panel tracks. It's all set to go. You can see that the ties and rail, everything's been spiked together. You can even see that joint bars have been added too. So it's pretty much just lift them off, set them into place, get the track back in shape, and you're good to go. Here's another car here. This is actually set up, as you can see, for a diamond here. And the pieces for all of that, as well as the ties and all the support materials for that. So there are a lot of special duty cars that are also brought in to support a derailment cleanup just beyond the flat cars that are used to transport the equipment. So David, that was a really great question, and I hope that helps you understand better how railroads clean up derailments in remote locations. Do you have other questions about prototype railroad practices? Or do you like to learn more about your model railroad? We're always here to help. Send us an email, asktrains@trains.com.